In May 2017, a massive decaying whale carcass mysteriously washed ashore on Seram Island, Indonesia. Measuring nearly 50 feet, it defied nature by floating, unlike typical whale falls that sink and nourish deep-sea life. Scientists discovered DNA from microbes found only near hydrothermal vents thousands of meters below, far deeper than baleen whales usually swim.
I saw something right above us, just like a flash. It was really strange.
100%. 100%.
The carcass showed signs of a ship strike, radiation-like damage, and extreme internal pressure. Its bizarre condition sparked ongoing debate among marine biologists. What truly happened in the depths of the Banda Sea? The night the monster washed ashore. It was a humid night when the sea near Seram Island, Indonesia, turned red. Fisherman Asrul Twanakota had gone out with his crew for a normal night of squid fishing off Hulung Beach. The waves were calm, the sky was quiet until they saw something floating ahead, glowing faintly in the dark. At first, Asrul thought it was a boat capsized by the tide. But as their flashlight beams cut through the mist, the boat moved. The closer they got, the worse the smell became. It was thick and sour, like rotten eggs mixed with metal and salt. Then the sea began to churn red. A monstrous mass of flesh almost 50 feet long bobbed in the water, oozing blood and strange fluids that glowed in the moonlight. Asrul's hands shook as he filmed it, whispering into his phone that it didn't look like a whale. It looked wrong. The body was twisted, its pale skin stretched tight, and some parts looked like huge limbs hanging loosely, ending in what looked like hooks. The fishermen stayed back, too scared to touch it. One of them, a young man named Terry, got sick over the edge of the boat, swearing he heard the creature moan. The sound was low and wet, like the wind trapped inside a cave. When they finally returned to shore, they told everyone what they saw. Within an hour, people from nearby villages gathered on the black sand beach, their flashlights bouncing off the strange red surf. Elders muttered prayers and warned the young ones to stay away. Some said the creature was a curse from the deep, a spirit from below, not something of this world. By midnight, videos of the strange creature spread across social media. The clips showed flashing lights, steaming flesh, and people whispering in disbelief. Around 2 a.m., power began to flicker in nearby villages. The lights went out, radios died, and dogs barked endlessly into the night. There was no storm, no reason for the blackout, just silence and fear. Before dawn, military trucks arrived, their engines rumbling through the dirt roads. Soldiers in black masks blocked the beach, ordering people back. Some witnesses said they saw men cutting pieces off the carcass and packing them into metal coolers. Others claimed a high-ranking officer arrived by speedboat and warned the locals, "No photos, no talk, or prison." What little footage slipped through showed something beyond explanation. The shape that shouldn't be. When the strange carcass washed ashore on Seram Island, no one could quite describe what they were seeing. It wasn't just big, it was straight up bizarre. The shape was distorted in ways that made no biological sense. Huge bones jutted out like tusks, some bent backward, others fused together as if twisted by impossible pressure deep beneath the ocean floor. The body itself looked like it had been reshaped, molded by something unnatural. It wasn't smooth like a whale's body. Instead, the flesh appeared fibrous, woven together in threads that caught the light in unsettling ways. Even stranger was the residue that streaked across the surface, a faintly glowing film that shimmered in shades of blue and green under the moonlight. When researchers finally managed to collect samples, they noticed something no one expected. Under ultraviolet light, intricate hexagonal patterns emerged just beneath the surface of the skin. They weren't random, they looked engineered, symmetrical, almost like the design of a honeycomb or a biological code etched into tissue. Scientists and marine experts watching the footage online couldn't agree on what they were seeing. Some believed it was a deep-sea creature. They pointed out how the bone structure resembled the leviathan Melville. a massive prehistoric predator believed to have vanished over 2 million years ago. The similarities were eerie: long, curving jawbones and ribs shaped like spears. Then came the rumors. Local divers who got close to the carcass claimed their equipment malfunctioned. Compasses spun uncontrollably, and faint electrical currents were reportedly detected in the surrounding water. Samples collected near the body supposedly contained trace minerals that didn't match any known marine life. It was as if the creature had absorbed something foreign from the ocean's depths or from somewhere else entirely. As word spread, theories began to spiral online. Some people blamed secret government experiments, suggesting the Navy had been testing biological hybrids that escaped into the sea. Others believed the carcass was dragged up from one of the deep ocean trenches, perhaps the Banda Trench, a place so remote that no submersible had ever mapped it completely. Whatever the truth, the creature didn't fit any known scientific category. It was a puzzle of bone, light, and decay, part organic, part unexplainable. And as it lay there under the red Indonesian moon, its glowing patterns fading into the tide, one unsettling thought lingered among those who saw it. Maybe this wasn't something ancient. Banda Sea Trench. Some of the most daring deep-sea researchers believe the carcass's origin lies in the Banda Sea, not just its surface waters, but the yawning depths beneath. The Banda Sea is among the least explored marine zones in the world. Its deepest part, known as Weber Deep, plunges over 7,000 meters down, deeper than many trenches. In local lore across Maluku, the sea is more than a body of water. It's home to ancient spirits and whispered legends. One of those stories is Ngaha Hao, a sea spirit said to sleep until the ocean turns blood red. Villagers have passed Ngaha Hao down through generations. They say that when the sea shifts color, the spirit awakens and that something terrible might follow. Some elders warn fishermen to stay close to shore, especially when the tides. Such legends frame the modern mystery with a layer of dread. Was the carcass not merely a dead creature, but an omen? A few days before the carcass washed ashore, marine sensors reportedly picked up seismic tremors in the Banda region. The readings were subtle, low-frequency ground motion, as if something massive stirred far below the sandy sea floor. Then came something more puzzling. Instruments detected what looked like a gigantic mass moving against the usual current direction, as though it was pushing upward or across layers of ocean that heavy creatures can't normally cross. The mix of signals, tectonic rumblings, and anomalous movement spooked some scientists. Was the seabed shifting? Was something huge crawling near the ocean's abyss? Even if natural, such disturbances could push buried bodies or rare creatures. Others thought it was an unnatural force awakening from deep down, drawn by unknown energies. In theory, underwater quakes or shifting faults in the Banda Arc system could release pressure or crack open hidden caverns. The Banda Sea lies along complex tectonic boundaries where plates collide, sink, or slip. In such unstable zones, the seabed might fracture and open new passages from depths previously sealed from the world. For the Maluku people, those physical tremors and movements weren't just science, they were warnings. When the sensors registered something massive pushing upward, elders murmured that Ngaha Hao must have stirred from its slumber. That ancient spirit, they said, might have dragged something up, opened pathways from the deep, or awakened a being not meant to tread the surface. So when the carcass appeared on the beach under a reddened moon, the two threads, modern science and old myth, tangled tightly. The seabed had shifted. Something enormous had pushed through. The distress sound beneath. Ocean researchers bent over hydrophone data from the week before the carcass arrived, and what they found chilled them. A low-frequency signal, tracked over almost 186 miles, pulsed through the seas. They called it the Banda Moan. It didn't match anything known. Not whale calls, not tectonic rumbles, not sonar or ship engines. Its beat sounded like a heart, slow, deep, rhythmic, as though the ocean itself had a pulse. The moan started faintly, a whisper under the waves, then grew stronger each night. It began in the trench zones far below, then spread outward through layers of water. Because low frequencies travel farther underwater, especially through the SOFAR channel, a natural sound guide in the ocean, the signal could be heard at great distances. The pattern was strange. The intervals between pulses varied slightly, but enough that listeners compared it to a breathing creature gently waking. Then, almost on cue, the pulse stopped. Exactly at the moment when the carcass first broke water near Seram Island, the Banda moan vanished. No tailing echo, no fading harmonics, just sudden silence. It was as though whatever had been calling below had halted its heartbeat the moment its body surfaced. Marine scientists scrambled to explain it. Some argued it was a geological event, perhaps movement along a fault line in the Banda Arc, or a shifting mass of magma under the sea floor. But geological sounds are usually more chaotic and lack repeating rhythms. Others suggested it might be a hidden species or life form, something massive and buried, stirring the waters with an energy signature. Could this signal be a method of communication or activation, perhaps tied to pressure changes? A few whispered wilder ideas. What if the sound was a wake-up call to a creature sleeping deep beneath? Or maybe the flesh that surfaced was part of a living entity that used acoustic pulses to sense surroundings, and the carcass was simply the exposed shell of something bigger. Some conjectured the signal might have been guiding the creature upward, tracing a path through layers of dense water with sound. Discovery shocked the world. The truth finally came out. The carcass wasn't some unknown monster. It was a baleen whale, though in a state so strange that few researchers recognized it at first. But as samples and drone footage came in, researchers realized they had seen this shape before, though never like this. It was without doubt a baleen whale. Still, that only deepened the mystery. Whales of this kind don't wash ashore. When they die, they sink. It's nature's quiet burial. The body drops thousands of meters to the ocean floor, feeding deep-sea life in what scientists call a whale fall. That's how it's supposed to work. But this one didn't sink. It floated. The entire carcass was swollen beyond recognition, skin stretched so tight it looked ready to burst. Scientists struggled to explain how it became so enormous. Decomposition gases like methane and carbon dioxide form inside dead whales, but they're usually released long before such extreme bloating occurs. Yet here the pressure built so much that the animal looked grotesque, almost sculpted by some deep-sea force. When the team of divers approached the remains to study them, things took an even stranger turn. Within minutes, several reported severe skin irritation. Their exposed arms began to itch and blister. Others complained of dizziness and nosebleeds after just a short time underwater. Back on shore, a few divers even showed gum bleeding, a sign that alarmed the medical staff monitoring the site. Experts quickly blamed bacteria from decomposition, especially species like Clostridium that release toxins during decay. But the burns didn't match typical bacterial exposure. The wounds looked chemical, as if the divers had brushed against something acidic. Some oceanographers proposed that the gases trapped inside the carcass may have mixed with deep-sea minerals, forming corrosive compounds as the whale rose through changing temperatures and pressures. Others suspected that something in the surrounding water, possibly industrial runoff or volcanic seepage from the Banda region, had reacted with the decaying tissue, creating a toxic blend. It was a natural process gone wrong, amplified by the environment itself. What unnerved scientists most wasn't just the bloating or the burns. It was the fact that this whale shouldn't have been there at all. It had come up from the deep instead of sinking, defying the quiet laws of the sea. And in its final hours, it seemed to carry with it something the ocean usually keeps hidden: the DNA that lied. When the DNA results finally came out, scientists expected them to settle the debate once and for all. The Indonesian Marine Research Institute confirmed the tissue belonged to a baleen whale, but the relief didn't last long. The sequences didn't match any known species exactly. There were mutations scattered throughout its genetic code, subtle yet impossible to ignore. In some regions, the genes looked like they had fused or rewritten themselves. What made it truly bizarre were the tiny fragments of DNA that didn't belong to whales at all. They resembled microbes usually found near hydrothermal vents, those boiling cracks deep in the ocean where strange life forms thrive in complete darkness. That discovery threw the research team into confusion. How could a whale that lived in open waters carry the genetic signature of vent bacteria from miles below? Some thought contamination might have occurred when the carcass decomposed, but the sequencing logs didn't show any signs of lab error. The samples were clean, the data consistent. Others proposed a more natural explanation, that the whale's body, sinking after death, had reached a geothermal vent field before gases made it rise again. Down there, intense pressure and volcanic chemicals could have triggered molecular reactions no one had ever observed before. Under such conditions, even DNA can twist, fuse, or absorb foreign strands as survival mechanisms in microorganisms. But whales don't regenerate or mutate that way, making the finding difficult to explain through normal biology. As scientists examined more tissue samples, they noticed something else. The cells showed damage similar to radiation exposure, not the kind caused by sunlight, but by something deeper and stronger. Some oceanographers pointed to undersea mining zones known for releasing radioactive sediments. Others quietly wondered if old military test sites might have left invisible scars across the seabed. If the whale had wandered through such an area, it might have absorbed contaminated water or prey, changing its cellular structure in ways that mimicked mutation. The Institute hesitated to make conclusions public. Evolution doesn't happen overnight. Yet there was genetic evidence of something that had changed in ways nature couldn't easily justify. Whether it was contamination, radiation, or deep-sea adaptation, the DNA didn't just tell a story, it contradicted itself. Cold water theory. Marine ecologists studying the strange creature that washed up in Indonesia started asking a different kind of question. What if it wasn't a mutant or the result of radiation, but something far simpler, a victim of the changing ocean itself? As the planet warms, deep-sea creatures that normally live miles below the surface are being pushed upward, forced out of their freezing homes into warmer waters they're not built for. This kind of displacement can be deadly. When animals that live under extreme pressure rise too quickly, their bodies can't adjust. The gases trapped inside them expand faster than their tissues can handle, sometimes tearing them apart. It's a brutal process, but it could explain why the massive carcass near Seram Island looked so unnatural. At those crushing depths, gas inside a whale's body stays tightly compressed. But near the surface, where pressure drops, those gases expand fast, like a balloon inflating from the inside. That could explain the bloated, balloon-like shape that terrified locals and confused scientists. It was no monster from another world, perhaps, but a victim of nature's imbalance. Yet even that theory didn't explain everything. When scientists examined tissue samples, they found something they couldn't believe. The creature's internal temperature was unusually cold, as if it had been frozen from the inside out. This discovery sparked a new debate. Some experts thought it might be evidence of cryogenic adaptation, a survival trait developed by species that live in the dark, icy parts of the ocean where sunlight and warmth have never reached. These creatures might have evolved to keep their bodies cold enough to withstand the freezing environment. But not everyone agreed. Others said the whale's structure didn't match any known species on record. Its muscles were denser, its fat layers were arranged in unfamiliar patterns, and its cells had tiny crystalline formations inside them, all signs of a creature shaped by conditions far harsher than the open sea. One researcher proposed a bold theory. Maybe this whale had lived most of its life near hydrothermal vents deep in the Banda Sea trench. Down there, life survives in complete darkness, feeding off chemical-rich plumes instead of sunlight. If that was true, then this whale wasn't just another deep-sea animal. It would mean this whale had adapted to conditions that no other whale could survive. The ship collision puzzle. At first, the scientists thought the whale's strange condition might have been caused by disease or a deep-sea eruption, But a new clue changed everything. Satellite data revealed an unusual spike in sonar interference just hours before the carcass appeared near Seram Island. When researchers compared the pattern to marine incident reports, they discovered that a large cargo vessel had passed through the same area that night. The ship's log mentioned a sudden jolt and strange vibrations, but no one on board could identify what caused it. That clue led experts to a new theory. The whale might have collided with the ship before surfacing dead. When investigators matched the timing of the collision with the mysterious low-frequency sound earlier called the Banda sound, a chilling possibility emerged. The haunting sound wasn't from the ocean's depths or from an unknown creature. It could have been the whale itself. Baleen whales communicate through deep, resonant calls that can travel for hundreds of miles underwater. If this one had been struck by the ship, the noise might have been its final distress call, a drawn-out, echoing moan of pain that reverberated through the trench before it died. The moment the sound stopped matched the exact time the carcass surfaced, as if the ocean fell silent in mourning. But even if a collision explained the injuries, it didn't explain the body's size and bloated form. Normally, when a whale dies, it sinks quietly to the seafloor where scavengers feed on it. This one, however, floated and swelled into a grotesque balloon, several times larger than any recorded specimen. Experts later found that the gases trapped inside its body were far higher than expected, almost as if something had sealed them in. Some speculated that the impact from the ship might have fractured the whale's internal structure in a way that trapped decomposition gases instead of letting them escape. The result was a massive, inflated form that eventually drifted ashore, a floating grave filled with pressure and decay. Still, even after piecing together the sonar data, the ship's route, and the strange bloating, one question refused to fade. The whale's DNA still carried those impossible mutations, traces of deep-sea microbes and radiation damage no collision could ever explain. Whatever happened that night might have begun long before the ship struck. Something deep in the Banda Sea had already changed this creature, and the answers seemed buried somewhere beneath the waves, waiting to rise again. We hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more amazing stories.